A man updates his Wi-Fi password, and within the hour, his neighbor calls the cops on him. But what the officers discover turns out to be far more unsettling than anyone could have expected. Marcus Reed was the kind of guy who preferred to stay under the radar. He freelanced from his townhouse in Maple Hollow, Illinois, kept his front yard immaculate, and only exchanged pleasantries with neighbors when absolutely necessary. That's how he liked it. Low profile, uneventful. And that's exactly how things stayed, until a small, seemingly harmless decision shifted everything. It was a late Wednesday afternoon when it started. Marcus had just wrapped up a string of online meetings and decided to check his connection speeds. His internet had been sluggish for days, lagging during streams, freezing mid-call, buffering endlessly. At first, he chalked it up to a poor service day, but something gnawed at him, so he pulled up his router dashboard on his tablet and saw something off. A device he didn't recognize was linked to his network, and not just some string of jumbled characters. This one had a name, Maple Hollow B14. Marcus didn't have guests over. He wasn't the kind to share access to his Wi-Fi. His tech was limited to a phone, a laptop, and a smart TV. Nothing about this made sense. Irritated, he removed the mystery device and reset the password immediately. He stepped outside for a better signal, tapping away on his phone while leaning against his garage. That's when Sandra Whitmore noticed him from behind her curtains. She saw Marcus standing by his carport, phone in hand, typing swiftly. It made her uneasy. She'd never trusted him, no specific reason, just a gut feeling. He was quiet, skipped every community barbecue, never waved. And now there he was, outside alone, doing something on his phone that looked to her covert. Her thoughts raced. Was he hacking into something? She couldn't say what, but it didn't feel right. Acting on impulse, she picked up her phone and dialed. Yes, I'd like to report something strange. My neighbor is outside, doing something on his device. I can't explain it, but it looks wrong. Could you send someone to take a look? The dispatcher asked for details, but Sandra didn't have any real ones, just repeated the same hunch. He's up to something, I swear. Officers were dispatched. Meanwhile, Marcus was completely unaware that his quiet break was about to spiral into a full-scale police visit. What neither Marcus nor Sandra could have imagined, however, was that the true threat lurking in the neighborhood had absolutely nothing to do with a password reset. Marcus had just finished updating his Wi-Fi password when he heard the sound of sirens in the distance. At first, he didn't think much of it. Maybe they were heading elsewhere. But then he noticed the patrol car slowing down and coming to a stop directly in front of his house. Two officers stepped out. The first was Detective Ethan Ramirez, tall and broad-shouldered, with a sharp, unreadable expression. His partner, Officer Talia Monroe, was smaller in stature but exuded a steady, quiet confidence. Marcus inhaled slowly. So this is happening. He stayed where he was as they approached. Ramirez's hand hovered near his belt, not on his holster, but close enough to send a silent message. "Sir," Ramirez said in a measured voice, "we received a report of suspicious behavior. Can you tell us what you're doing?" Marcus raised his brows slightly, glancing between them. "Suspicious?" He gestured around. "I'm standing in my own driveway, updating my Wi-Fi settings." There was a trace of disbelief in his voice, though he kept his tone even. He knew better than to let irritation show. Ramirez shot a glance at Monroe, then returned his gaze to Marcus. "Do you reside here?" The question nearly made Marcus laugh. His SUV was parked a few feet away. His name was on the mailbox. "Yeah," he replied, folding his arms. "Been here almost 4 years." Before the conversation could go further, another voice interrupted. "He's lying." Marcus turned toward the sound and saw her, Sandra Whitmore, standing on her porch with arms crossed, the picture of self-assigned authority. "He's always out there doing something weird," she declared, her eyes fixed on Marcus. "Always fiddling with that phone, looking around like he's spying on everyone. Now he's been standing there for 15 minutes straight." Marcus blinked in disbelief. Was she serious? "I was checking my router," he said flatly, "because someone's been piggybacking on my Wi-Fi and I don't recognize the device." Sandra rolled her eyes. "Oh, really? And I'm just supposed to buy that?" Ramirez turned slightly toward her. "Ma'am, do you have any proof that Mr. Reed has committed a crime?" Sandra paused. Of course she didn't. It was all suspicion and gut feelings. I'm not sure," she stammered. "I just think you should look into it." Ramirez sighed through his nose, clearly running out of patience. He turned back to Marcus. "Sir, would you mind if we take a look at your router settings, just to clarify everything?" Marcus clenched his jaw. He shouldn't have to justify anything, but he also understood how quickly things could escalate. "Sure," he muttered, unlocking his phone and opening the settings app. "Here, take a look." Ramirez leaned in, eyes narrowing as he scanned the list of connected devices. And then, his expression shifted. There it was, Maple Hollow Eye 14. "Who does that device belong to?" he asked. Marcus shook his head. "Not mine." Officer Monroe stepped closer, one brow arched. "So someone's been piggybacking off your Wi-Fi without permission?" Marcus nodded slowly. "And I don't think they were just streaming movies. Check the connection logs. It's been active non-stop. Someone's been watching something." Ramirez's stance shifted, his body tensing. This wasn't just a paranoid neighbor or a stolen signal anymore. From her spot on the porch, Sandra's confidence faltered. "Wait," she called out, her voice suddenly unsure. "What do you mean?" "Watching." Marcus turned toward her, his tone colder now. "I mean someone's been spying, and possibly on all of us. The real question is, who?" Silence dropped like a weight across the yard. Sandra, who moments earlier had stood so sure of her instincts, now looked visibly shaken. Spying. That wasn't the narrative she expected. Ramirez straightened. His voice was sharper now. "Let's go inside. I want to see exactly what we're dealing with." Marcus didn't resist. He stepped aside and guided the officers into his home, tension radiating through his frame. He hadn't done anything wrong, yet here he was, questioned like a criminal in his own living room. Sandra hesitated at the doorway. Something, maybe guilt, maybe curiosity, compelled her to follow. Inside, Marcus placed his phone on the dining room table and mirrored the router dashboard onto his laptop. The connected devices loaded again. There it was, Maple Hollow Eye 14, still linked, still pulling data. Officer Monroe leaned in, scanning the screen. "Can you tell what kind of device it is?" Marcus moved quickly through the settings, eyes locked on the data. "Not precisely, but..." He opened the system logs and froze. Ramirez noticed the change in his demeanor immediately. "What is it?" Marcus's voice was dry when he answered. "It's accessing camera feeds." The room went still. Even Sandra looked stunned. I don't get it. What camera feeds?" Marcus hesitated, then turned the screen to face them. "Mine," he said. "My home surveillance cameras. Someone's been remotely logging in, watching my live footage." Monroe's jaw tightened. "You're saying someone's been spying on you through your own security system?" Marcus exhaled, the truth weighing heavy in his chest. "That's exactly what I'm saying." But just as the words left his mouth, a deeper realization struck. His fingers darted across the screen. The further he dug, the clearer it became. There were multiple IP addresses listed, some matching his network, but others foreign, different, unfamiliar. "Holmes," Marcus muttered under his breath. "This is bad." Ramirez leaned in, brows knitting. "What do you mean?" Marcus tapped the screen again. "Whoever's behind this, they're not just watching me, they're monitoring other houses in the neighborhood too." Sandra took a quick step back, her head shaking in disbelief. "Number no, that can't be true." Marcus looked directly at her. "You sure?" He clicked through another entry in the log. A new video feed popped up, a dim hallway, followed by a glimpse of a living room and then a bedroom. Sandra gasped. "Wait, that's..." But Marcus didn't need her to finish. He already knew. It was her house, her furniture, her family photos on the wall. She stumbled back, one hand flying to her mouth in horror. Ramirez's voice cut through the tension. "How the hell is this possible?" Marcus clenched his jaw. If I had to guess, someone nearby set up a rogue access point, a Wi-Fi signal that looks like a regular one. People connect without realizing, and boom, their devices are exposed. Monroe's eyes narrowed. You're talking about a man-in-the-middle attack? Marcus nodded. Exactly. Sandra's voice trembled. So, someone's been spying on me? On my family? Marcus didn't blink. That's exactly what I'm saying. Sandra sank into the nearest chair, visibly shaken. Oh my God. Ramirez's jaw tightened. We need to find out who's running this, and fast. But what none of them realized yet was that the perpetrator was much closer than they suspected. Ramirez grabbed his radio, his tone clipped. Dispatch, this is Detective Ramirez, requesting immediate cybercrime support at Maple Hollow. We've got a potential privacy breach on a massive scale. He glanced at Monroe. This isn't just some neighbor squabble. If someone's operating a surveillance setup, that's a federal offense. Monroe nodded grimly. And if we don't shut them down now, who knows how many homes have already been tapped? Marcus, still hunched over his laptop, dove deeper into the logs. He wasn't a pro hacker, but he had enough IT background to follow the data trail. He opened the latest IP records and froze. No way, he whispered. Ramirez looked up. What is it? Marcus turned the screen toward them. The data. It's not going to some remote server. It's being routed to an IP right here, in this neighborhood. Sandra's eyes went wide. You mean someone nearby is doing this? Marcus nodded slowly. It's coming from a house just a few doors down. Ramirez's expression darkened. Can you pinpoint exactly which one? Marcus worked quickly, comparing signal strength with connection timestamps, cross-referencing each data point with precision. Within minutes, he had it, an address. And the moment he recognized it, his heart sank. Sandra recognized it too. No, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Marcus didn't wait for her to finish. That's Jason's house. Jason Whitmore, her own nephew. A 22-year-old college student who had moved in a few months ago. Quiet, always glued to his laptop, barely spoke unless spoken to. Suddenly, so many things began to fall into place. Sandra's face drained of color. No, that doesn't make any sense. Jason's not like that. He wouldn't. Monroe stepped forward. We need to speak to him, right now. Sandra hesitated. She didn't want to believe it, but something deep in her core told her they were right. I'll take you to him, she said softly. Marcus stood as well. I'm going too. Ramirez cut in, voice firm. Number, you stay here. Let us handle it. Marcus clenched his teeth. It didn't sit right, standing aside after being the one to uncover it all. But arguing would only slow them down. Fine, he muttered, but make sure you get the truth. None of them, though, were prepared for just how dark the truth would be. Sandra's hands trembled as she led Ramirez and Monroe down the quiet street to her home. Each step felt heavier than the last. Jason, the boy she'd helped raise, guided through school, protected. How could this be? Yet, under all the doubt, a tiny voice inside her whispered, "What if it is?" She opened the front door and called, "Jason, can you come downstairs for a second?" Silence. Ramirez glanced at Monroe, then stepped inside. "We're going up." Sandra didn't protest. She wrapped her arms tightly around herself, trying to control her breathing. They reached Jason's bedroom. The door was closed. No sound came from within. Ramirez knocked hard. "Jason Whitmore, this is the police. We need to speak with you." Silence. Then a chair scraped. Footsteps. Monroe's hand hovered near her holster. "Open the door, now." The knob turned slowly. The door creaked open, and Jason appeared, wide-eyed, jittery, his gaze flicking nervously between the officers and his aunt. His hands fidgeted at his sides. "What's going on?" he asked, voice taut and cracking. Ramirez stared Jason down. "We have reason to believe you've been accessing private home security cameras in this neighborhood. You want to explain that?" Jason barely reacted, but his fingers tensed, curling slightly at his sides like he was grasping something invisible. What? That's insane, he said with a scoff. I don't know what you're talking about. Monroe wasn't convinced. Mind if we take a look at your laptop? Jason's jaw clenched. You don't have a warrant. Ramirez took a step forward. Jason, we can get one. But right now, we're giving you a chance to be honest before this situation gets much worse. The silence stretched. Then Jason let out a shaky breath. Look, He raked a hand through his hair. I wasn't doing anything illegal, okay? Ramirez cut in. Then why does your IP address match a breach tied to several homes? Jason froze. His composure faltered. Sandra's voice cracked. Jason, please tell me this isn't true. He glanced at her, and for the first time, the facade crumbled. I didn't mean for it to go this far, he mumbled. It started out as a joke. I wanted to see if I could get into someone's Wi-Fi, just to mess around. Ramirez's voice turned cold. So you admit you hacked into a private network? Jason hesitated, then gave a small nod. Sandra's breath caught. Jason continued, words tumbling out now. It was supposed to be harmless, but then I saw the security camera feeds, and I got curious. Monroe's expression darkened. Curious? Or obsessed? Jason didn't respond. Ramirez stepped forward, done playing games. How many homes have you been watching? Silence. Then Jason muttered, I don't know. Sandra stumbled back, as if the weight of the truth physically struck her. Oh my God. Jason looked at her, guilt flickering across his face. I swear, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone, he said. Ramirez cut him off. Jason Whitmore, you're under arrest for unauthorized access of computer systems and unlawful surveillance. Jason turned pale. Wait, no, But Monroe was already pulling out her cuffs. Sandra turned away, unable to watch, tears brimming in her eyes. Marcus had been right all along, and the cruelest irony, she had called the police on him when the true threat had been inside her own home. But this wasn't over. Jason didn't fight back. He simply stood there, wrists restrained, eyes locked on the floor as Ramirez read him his rights. It was over, at least for now. Sandra's breath trembled. She couldn't even look at him. This was her nephew, the boy she had fed, supported, sheltered, and he had betrayed the trust of the entire neighborhood. As Ramirez led Jason toward the front door, he paused briefly, turning to Marcus, who stood silently at the edge of the driveway. Their eyes met. You were right, Ramirez said quietly. If you hadn't uncovered this, we might have never known. Marcus didn't respond at first. He exhaled slowly, his eyes shifting from Jason to Sandra. Then, finally, he spoke, his voice steady but weighted with something deeper. You know what's crazy? He said. I was just out here, minding my own business, changing my Wi-Fi password, and somehow I'm the one who had the cops called on me. Sandra winced. There was nothing she could say, because he was right. I was wrong, she murmured. I made an assumption, and it wasn't fair. Marcus let the silence stretch. Then, with a small shake of his head, he turned back toward his house. I'm not looking for an apology, he said over his shoulder. Just do better. And with that, he walked away. Ramirez and Monroe exchanged a glance before guiding Jason toward the squad car. Sandra stayed frozen in the middle of the street, alone now with the weight of her mistake pressing down like a storm. The truth had been there all along, but she'd been too focused on the wrong target. And that realization, it would haunt her. For a long, long time. Assumptions carry consequences. Jumping to conclusions based on bias or fear can damage lives, especially when the innocent are blamed and the guilty go unseen. So before you judge, pause, observe, listen. The truth isn't always what it seems. If this story gave you something to think about, share it. Someone out there might need this reminder today.